me move this. I'm just moving my coffee off the.
Sounds good. Hey, everyone, thanks for joining us. We're going to give it another minute or two here just to let some people continue to get into the Zoom here. So like I said, just another minute or two. So thanks for joining a little early. All right, I think we can get started with introductions here. If you're just joining us, welcome. Glad you all could join us for our 1 hour webinar, Taking Your AP Function One Step Beyond Best Practices. I'm Sam Maxwell, part of the marketing team here at MHC, and I'll be facilitating today's discussion. Our speaker is Mary Schaeffer, who I'll be introducing shortly. First, I'd like to go over just some housekeeping items with you guys. This webinar is being recorded, and attendees will receive a follow-up email with the link to the recording on our website. All participants are muted to prevent any background noise, so please type in any questions you have into the Q&A section. There will be a post-webinar survey that will appear when the webinar ends. Please use the survey to let us know how we're doing and to request any additional information, just so an MHC resource can follow up with you. We love that feedback. Awesome, Mary, if you just want to jump up, did it already. Perfect. So for those of you not familiar with MHC, we can help organizations tackle digital transformations with speed and confidence using our solutions to automate the capture, transformation, and communication of paper and digital documents across core business processes. Our flexible end-to-end automation platform helps users eliminate tedious procure-to-pay and order-to-cash tasks, increase efficiency, achieve operational excellence goals, and strengthen relationships with customers and vendors. And now an introduction to our speaker today. So with us, like I said, we have Mary Schaeffer, AP Now's founder. She's been creating content for the AP function for over 20 years. She's served on the Business Payments Coalition and Federal Reserve Remittance Delivery Assessment Work Group, and is currently a member of NHCHA ACH Network Advisory Panel. She's been named a top AP influencer for the last 3 years by the prestigious AP Association, which is a global organization headquartered in the UK. Before founding AP Now, she worked in corporate finance and treasury for Continental Grain, Equitable Life, and now AXA and ONY. Awesome. So thanks for joining us today, Mary, and it's over to you.
Okay. So let me move right on, and hopefully the agenda slide is showing. I'm going to have some introductory remarks. Then I'm going to talk about the 8 steps everybody can use to take their operations one step further, and then have some concluding remarks. Okay, so we've been talking about best practices, or at least I've been talking about best practices for quite some time now, and many of you, most of you probably know what best practices are and are using many of them. Now, just an aside, based on some of the surveys that we've done at AP Now, what we find is even though people know what best practices are, there's virtually nobody out there who is using 100% of best practices. So when I talk about some of this stuff today, or you hear other talks about best practices, don't be beating yourself up because you're not using 100% best practices. You've got a lot of company, okay? But be that as it may, we've been talking about best practices for a while, and every single organization is always looking for constant process improvements. They're looking for ways to streamline their operations. They're looking for things that they can do to take their organization to the next level. This is true about the whole organization, and it's definitely true about the accounts payable practice, because the more we can streamline it, the better we can operate, the more efficient, more effective we can be, the less it will cost, and that means that's money that goes right to the bottom line. So your company has certain expectations for their accounts payable function, but we want to talk about what you can do to exceed these expectations. And so before we get to that, let's talk about, we have our first polling question. Matt, not Matt, Sam. I don't know why I'm calling him Matt. So how much time do you reserve each month for learning new topics or updates on topics related to your current position? And I'm very curious to see what the answer to this is. All right, so far, Sam, nobody's saying over 5 hours. Okay, we're basically seeing most of you are saying between 1 and 5 hours. Okay, 58. A few of you are saying none, and then, but only a few. Okay, all righty. So, can I stop sharing this? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and all right, so onward. So we're going to talk about the big eight steps that you can take or you should be taking to take your organization right past best practice. So my first example is what I call step one: analyze the outliers. Whenever something happens that's out of the ordinary, you want to take a look at it. You not only want to fix it if it was something bad, but you want to, if it was something good, you want to look at it. How did that happen, and how can I repeat it? I have some examples that I'm going to share with you. And then the bad, you not only want to fix what happened, but you need to take that one step further. And what changes do we need to make in the future so this doesn't happen again? So let me give you some real life examples. Okay. So I like to start with the good, because a lot of times when I do these talks, I'm always talking about mistakes and errors and etc. So I have an example. So about 10 years ago, I was invited to be on a board. And I was very pleased to be invited onto that board. But it came to me kind of out of nowhere, or so it seemed. So I sat down and I analyzed, how did it happen? How did I come to be on this? Well, I came to the attention of the people who selected the board at a national convention. Because I ran one of parts of the convention. So you might say, okay, so that's how you could do it. Run part of a national convention, but it's not. You need to take it one step further. How did I end up there? Well, I was invited to be there. Why was I invited to be there? And I was able to work it back to where I had volunteered to do. I basically volunteered to help at plant sales. It was a horticultural group at a local level. Okay. So when you see something like this, you want to analyze it right back to the lowest level. And then if it's something you want to repeat, can you repeat it? How can you repeat it? Okay. Now, unfortunately, when we're talking about accounts payable, not all our examples are good things. So I have my example of an outlier, number 2. And in this case, and this actually did happen at an organization that I worked for. And at this organization, the 1099s that went out in January to the folks at on the board of directors were incorrect. Okay. And in case there's anyone listening who doesn't know, a 1099 is a form that you use to report income both to the person who received it and the IRS. And these were wrong. So as you might imagine, there was a huge to-do going on in this organization, because who wants to upset the board of directors? It's not a pretty day. All I can say is thank God I had nothing to do with the 1099s at that point. So obviously they corrected them. They did that quickly. But then you want to take it one step further. And how did we end up doing this? Well, we ended up, when we were collecting our data and coding it into the ERP system, something was coded incorrectly. So you want to go back and change your processes so the coding of those particular entries does not continue the way it had been. It doesn't end up in the wrong GL code, and it doesn't end up with the 1099s being issued incorrectly. And then the next question, did the staff need more 1099 training? And the answer was probably yes. And so then you want to make sure in the following year that they get more training before they issue them in the fall. Okay, so there was a process change and a training change. Now, unfortunately, this example has a second step. When the 1099s were reissued, they were reissued incorrectly. So there was even a more of a hoop-de-doo, if you will, and more pressure. So the lessons learned and what we want to do in the future is, yes, we want to fix these things and we want to fix them as quickly as we can, but we don't want to rush. So we want to make sure moving forward that when we make corrections on the 1099s, that we are certain. We want to make certain that we have the right solution, not just a solution, but the right solution. And we want to make sure that we do all the research before we execute. Don't just, jump because it's one of the big shots involved. Okay. And so again, then go back, fix the processes so this does not happen again. Okay, here's an example that hopefully nobody on this line has had to deal with. But I know several people who have had to deal with it, unfortunately. And this is when somebody on their staff fell for one of those phony emails requesting a change of bank account, and then the company ended up sending money to a criminal, and they weren't able to get it back. So when this first started happening, we all of us had to change the processes that we used when we got these requests. We no longer had to make the change. We also had to add some new verification changes to our processes, which did not make us more efficient because it added time to the process. But better to add a little bit of time than to send $2 million to the wrong person. Now, there's more to this than that. So you not only have to change your processes, which is what people did, they also need to make sure that everyone on staff understands how important it was to follow these new processes, no matter how busy, because criminals, in all cases, but especially in this case, knew how to take advantage of the accounts payable staff. And so they would wait for times when they knew the staff was busy, like the end of the month, late Friday afternoon, if it was before a holiday weekend. Even better yet, if that late Friday afternoon was before a holiday weekend and the end of the month, which is what happened in one of the instances that I'm most familiar with. That phony email came in Friday afternoon. The person was busy. They were trying to get out for the holiday. And so they didn't make the call. And of course, that was the one transaction that was phony. And so the money went to the wrong person. So not only was it important that you change the processes, which many companies, and I'm hoping everybody listening today has done, but make sure that staff understands, no matter how busy, this has to be done because crooks are going to take advantage. Okay, next step is to emphasize to your employees and hopefully yourself the importance of continuous learning, which is why I was asking you at the beginning how much time you devote to keeping up to date on things that impact your organization and the functionality and your career, to be perfectly honest. Now, a few of you wrote that you don't devote any time to it, but I would beg to differ with you. And I would say just the fact that you are on this call and you are participating today, this counts as time towards learning how to perfect your craft, if you will, get new ideas and learn about something that will help your career and hopefully your company at the same time. Now, in an ideal world, which very few of us live, by the way, there is some corporate budget for this. And so the company will send employees not only to sessions like this, but also sessions that cost some money. And this is especially important when it comes to things like tax and 1099 reporting, etc. So there are some free resources that are very good that will help help you learn about new technology, etc. But ideally, your company has given you some money. And if they haven't, then you've got to take it on yourself, okay? Because it's your career. In addition, one would hope at the corporate level that they've also given you some time, such as to attend this. But if they haven't, then you've got to take it upon yourself because remember, you're responsible for yourself, no one else. Okay. Now, if whether your company has given you the resources or not, just be aware that there are a lot of free resources out there. And some of them will take time for you to round up. Some of them, will be presented to you in a nice form of a webinar that ideally your organization provides to you, but maybe not. It depends. Now, I want to talk about some free resources that are out there and that you should all be taking advantage of some of these. So obviously, a webinar such as this is wonderful. It's nice that MHC Automation is willing to do this and to share it with the community. And I know they have some others. I've done one or two of them, and they have some other excellent speakers. And so you can look at their website and you can see some of the other webinars that were given. And I believe they have some articles also. If your organization is not providing you with 1099 resources at the end of the year, sending you to a webinar or a seminar or an e-workshop, whatever, then you need to go to the IRS website and read the latest regulations before you issue those 1099s. Now, there are some free e-zines. They come out once or twice a week, once a month, whatever they are. We have one at AP now, but there are others that will help you learn not only about accounts payable, which is really important. I mean, we're here talking about accounts payable. There are a lot of things, a lot of issues that impact it. I've already alluded to the 1099 stuff. There's a ton of new technology that's making our jobs easier and easier. I continue to be amazed at what you can learn with Excel, data analytics. There's just a ton of accounting. Okay, as AP becomes more and more a part of the accounting and finance community, we need to be able to talk intelligently about that. You can look for some podcasts and some YouTube videos. We have one at AP Now, but there's also there's tremendous stuff about Excel. I start to watch these things and it's just amazing what you can do. Also, you can learn about technology there. So, for example, Chat GPT has been all over the papers. You can see some talks on that. Okay, but somebody needs to take responsibility for continuing to update your learning, and that has to be you. It's nice if you have some help from your company, but if you don't, well, then you have to do it on your own. So what I like to tell people is to what I call, and I stole this from somebody else. I saw some guy had it and I thought it was brilliant, was create what I call a learning dashboard. So ideally, what you want to do is set aside some regular time for your learning. And I'm a great believer in doing this in short bursts rather than saying, okay, once a month I'm going to spend Saturday afternoon from 12 to 5 trying to update myself because, by 1:30 you'll want to cry. So for me, what I do is I do it when I eat my lunch. I try and find a YouTube video or an article that I want to read, or a book if I want to read a book, and then I'll read a chapter. A good friend of mine has a cup of tea in the afternoon. You can do it while you're drinking your coffee in the morning, whatever. Just create a regular time, make it a habit. Once you make it a habit, you'll do it on a regular basis. You won't even think about it. But what you don't want to do is get on YouTube and start, just looking to see what YouTube has suggested to you. And before you know it, you're down the rabbit hole of watching cat videos and Mr. Beast and God only knows what. That is no help to you. So what you want to do is develop a list of topics. Hey, what do I need to learn about? So it might be Excel, It might be accounts payable. Hopefully it is accounts payable, technology, etc. Develop your list. And then you want to create your list of resources so that you're good to go. You're ready to go when you start, and you're not, running down the rabbit hole, or just watch, I'll just watch one more Minecraft video, and then there's your time. Lunch is over. Okay. So we've got our next polling question, and I'm really curious to see the answer to this. Have you tried Chat GPT? And I'm interested in two things, okay? Um, okay. So, um, most of you have not tried Chat GPT. I'd love to hear from the people who have tried it and have found some uses for it. And a few of you had said, what's Chat GPT? So let me start by answering that. It is an AI tool, artificial intelligence tool, that is now available for free for anybody who wants to use it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about AI, but in the back of your mind, remember the things that I'm talking about, you can probably try on Chat GPT. So we're talking about AI. It's here. It's artificial intelligence. It's built into a lot of things that we already are using. And, what do they say? If you can't fight them, join them. Okay, so what you need to do is learn what it can and cannot do, and then learn how to take advantage of it. Now, what I like to tell people is that this is consider it an aid, not a replacement. It's not going to. It's going to be a long time before AI is able to replace us at what we do at work. And I have some examples of what I've run into. I also want to point out that this might be something that you might want to include on your learning dashboard. How to use Chat GPT. Okay, there's a lot of videos on that, and I'm going to talk a little bit, and I believe it's on the next slide, about what it can do and what it can't do. Okay, and there are some big caveats there. So now the first thing that you must realize, and I think it's especially important to share that with this audience, is sometimes the answers it gives you are wrong. Okay, it's that simple. It will give you wrong information. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't use it at all because you don't want to. It's going to give you wrong information, but just be aware of that. And what it means is you have to review everything you get back. Now, of course, when a company like MHC Automation takes AI and incorporates it into its product, it trains it, and it doesn't release it obviously until it works. Okay, so number one, it can be right. And the reason I make such a big deal about, hey, it could be wrong, is I don't want you to think that you can use it. Hey, I don't have to attend a 1099 webinar at the year end. I'll just put my tax questions in Chat GPT and I'll get my answer. No, you won't. Okay, it won't be updated, and it could give you the wrong answer. It also has a problem with what I call nuance. And for example, in a world that we are all familiar with, it does not understand, it cannot differentiate between AP and AR. So it'll be going along fine, and then you'll be like, what? So do not rely on it for something like that. Okay, and obviously you're not going to use it for research. It's not up to date. It's, I believe, only updated through September 2021. So don't use it for your 1099s. That's where I could see people using it. And honestly, I would be tempted to use it for 1099s also if it was me, if I had to. Okay, but so, all right, Mary, you're telling us here what it can't do. What can it do? Okay, it can help you with your writing. Okay, it can check your grammar and your spelling, and it can make you sound more professional. Now, here's like what I'll do with it sometimes, especially by the end of the day, I'm tired. I'm trying to get, three things done before dinner, and I, got 20 minutes, and it's really not enough time. And I'm dashing off some emails, and they're blah. Okay. They're not interesting. They're just blah. And so I might copy what I've written and pop it into Chat GPT and say, please rewrite this and make it more interesting, or please rewrite this and make it more professional, or, and this is a big one, please rewrite this and make it more friendly. Because sometimes, you'll read what you wrote and it'll be like, hey, that sounds like I'm angry, and I'm not angry, and I don't want them to think I'm angry. Okay. So you can use it for things like that, but check it. Okay. Don't just automatically copy and paste what they send you back, because you don't want to be sending like a note to your boss, or I don't know, your grandfather that starts off, hey, dude. You want to make sure that it sounds like you, not, and I will tell you, when I've tried to use it for marketing type things, sometimes it sounds like a used car salesman. So you have to like tone it back, but it does give you a really good starting point, and you want to. So you can rely on it, but it's an aid. It's not going to replace you. Now, I'm going to share an example of something that happened to me. I was sitting there one afternoon, and I had it opened. I was doing something, and I thought, let me see. And I typed in, pretend I'm new to accounts payable. What resources would you recommend so I could learn about it? I was curious to see if it was going to come back with any of my books, to be perfectly honest. So it came back and it had 5 resources. The first 3 were books. And guess what? I had written all of them. So I was pretty pleased about it until I looked at them. And I'd only written one of the books. The other 2 books, not only had I not written, I'd never heard of. So I thought, I wonder if I wrote an article with this name, because it sounded like something I would have written. And I put it in the search, and I tried to find it. I could not find those items anywhere. So be careful. You can use it as an aid, more like to help correct your grammar and things like that. But at this point, it is not going to replace any of the tasks that you're doing. Okay. But it's getting better. Okay. So let's say I've intrigued you, at least to try and take a look. How do you get started? Go to the site OpenAI, that's an I, not an L, openai.com, and register, and you'll get ChatGPT. Also, you can go, Google has its own version, which they called Bard, after Shakespeare. I kind of got a chuckle out of that. And you can register there for Bard. I have not registered for Bard or used it yet. I probably should, but from what I've heard, the results are similar. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about that. You're probably tired of hearing me talk about it. And I want to start talking about vendor credits, and how to take a deep dive into vendor credits. Okay, you want to start off by investigating every credit that you have. Okay, so when you get a credit, you want to obviously figure out why you have the credit. You want to recover it, okay? But you also want to figure out, hey, what happened? Why did we get this credit? Because if it's a credit, it means you overpaid somebody, and you'd rather not overpay somebody. You'd rather just not do it, because it takes a lot of time and effort to recover these credits. Okay, and then, so you've recovered the money, you figured out what happened. What changes do I have to make so that we don't get this credit over and over again? Because it takes time to process the credits, to do the accounting for them, to make sure you take them against an invoice, etc. So you want to be more efficient. So obviously recover the credits and then make changes so that those credits don't happen again, at least for the same reason. Now, the next thing that you want to do is, okay, I got a credit for X with ABC Company. Is this likely to happen with other vendors? So we got this credit because we had a coding problem. Somebody coded it incorrectly. Is this the only place? You also sometimes want to look for vendors in the same industry because they tend to have the same issues. So if we're doing business with vendor A, B, and C, who are all selling us green widgets, then go and see if you have any credits with those other vendors and make the changes so that it won't happen again. And of course, you want to recover them. Now, sometimes you'll learn about credits through credit memos, and that's fine. That's a great way to find them. But sometimes you won't get those vendor credits, and you'll only learn about them if you do a statement audit. Now, you might say, but our vendors send us credit memos. Some do and some don't. Okay, first of all, let me start off by saying that. Some don't send the vendor credits, but even when they do send the credit memos so that you know about them, sometimes they get lost. Sometimes, like for example, they get sent to purchasing. Purchasing doesn't realize AP doesn't know about it. They file it or they throw them away or they do nothing with them. Sometimes they do send them to AP. And if your processes haven't been trained adequately, they may end up thinking that it's an invoice and then they pay the credit, which just exacerbates the issue. And some they just get lost in the shuffle. So because this happens, you want to do regular vendor statements audits. You want to get the statements once a year, review them, recover all your credits, and then analyze why did this happen? What process changes do we need to make so that it doesn't happen again? If you think this is a lot of make work, let me start out by pointing out that many audit firms, what they do, the way they start their audits, a duplicate payment audit or payment audits, the very first thing they do is a statement audit. And the reason they get the vendor statements and do the audit is because it's the easiest money to find. So if it's that easy, why don't you find it instead of them? Okay. Next thing, next step to take your organization beyond best practice. I call this taking a page from Mr. Beast. This is also known as the 1% solution. Now, some of you may know he's a very young man. He's supposed to be the most famous YouTuber, the most successful one, definitely. And his approach is, and you can apply this to the accounts payable space. You can probably apply it to the accounting space and a lot of other things. Is what he says is, don't look for the big changes. You want to make changes in small, very regular steps. So what he says when it comes to YouTube is he says improve each video 1%, okay? You can make a 1% change. Don't try and improve everything all at the same time. You want to look at it and pick one step. Now you can do one step every week. So, one facet. So you can pick one thing and make that one change each week. And these changes can be small and incremental, but they add up. And what you want to do, what I'm recommending that you do here, is look in places that you normally don't look. So when we talk about accounts payable and your accounts payable operation, we're almost always talking about your processes. We're talking about automation. I'm talking about getting your 1099s out so you don't spend so much time on that. We're talking about things like that. But there are other places that we kind of never look, and these are small changes. And the three that I'm going to mention right now are Outlook, Excel, and Word. And there are a ton of shortcuts for these technologies, a few of which I know. And this is another place where YouTube, I'm amazed when I see all these different things that people can do. And I'm going to give you a few of these small shortcuts. The first one isn't actually an Excel shortcut, but I want to make sure you all know about it. We all look for duplicate payments, duplicate invoices. We're constant duplicate vendors in the master vendor file. We're always looking for duplicates, okay? And if you know how to use conditional formatting in Excel, it is extremely helpful when it comes to looking for duplicates. You basically slap the two files into your Excel spreadsheet, the two sets of data that you have. You line them, whatever you're looking for, as the duplicate. You line them up in the same column. You click the button at the top to highlight the column, and then you look for the conditional formatting. I have a video on it, but you can figure out how to do it. It's very simple. So hopefully you're all doing that when you're looking for duplicates. It'll take you like 5 minutes. I mean, really, I do it all the time. It's simple. Okay. Now this one you're only going to use occasionally. I am not recommending that you start putting emojis in all your emails, but there are times when you'll be putting together as an email comes to mind. And I mentioned before, oh, I look at that, it sounds angry, and I don't want them to think I'm angry, so I might put a smiley face. Use them sparingly because we are in a professional environment. But whatever program you're in, you can get the emojis keyboard simply by pressing the Windows button and the period, and the keyboard will pop up. If you're like me and I wanted to put an emoji, I'd go into Google, I'd look for it, then I'd copy and paste it. Okay, this is obviously much easier. I'm sure that you all are using copy and paste, Control C and then Control V, or cut and paste if you want to remove it and move it someplace else, Control X and Control V. Two other simple ones. If you want to undo something, like you made a change and then I shouldn't have cut that out, Control Z will undo it. And then if you cut it out, you want to put it back. Oh, I shouldn't have cut that out, Control Y. But there are a ton of them. And in fact, just for starters, Microsoft has Control A through Z, all stand for something, a shortcut. So learn as many of these as you can. You'll save, a minute here, a minute there, but they add up. Okay, enough about that. You got the idea. You can look for them yourself. A lot of them are on YouTube Shorts. There are a number of people, again, on YouTube who will talk about it, and they know a lot more about it than I do. Okay. You need to stay current. Okay, this should go beyond make sense. You should automatically be doing it, but I can't tell you how many people don't, especially when it comes to regulatory compliance. Because you can be running a best practice accounts payable function, and then you make these regulatory mistakes because you're not staying current, and then you spend a lot of time. And I'm not going to say a lot of time, spend a lot of time. I'm going to say waste a lot of time trying to fix them. My favorite example are B notices when you send your 1099s out into correctly. Not only that, they make you look bad. You heard my example at the beginning, the time the folks sent out the 1099s to the board of directors incorrectly. Boy, that was not a good career move for those people. All right. So you want to stay current just so you don't look bad for starters, but there are constant changes. And the IRS has gotten more funding from Congress. They got $80 million that's going to be spent, not 80 million, 80 billion over the next 10 years, and they've gotten that first 8 billion, and they have used it to more hiring. They've used it for more technology, and they're using it for what they call enforcements, which you and I call audits. Okay, and they have pledged that these audits will only be for individuals making over $400,000 a year and companies. Now, what they want from us is correct information. They don't want the fines, they don't want the penalties, but you need to stay up to date and ahead, so you get that stuff out on a regular basis. You get it out as quickly as possible, correctly. Okay, so in the fall, 1099, at least, a webinar to update. There's a new 1099 form coming out. It's called the 1099-DA, which stands for digital assets. This is the IRS's way of getting the information they think they need on cryptocurrencies, for example. Okay. I'm going to stop talking about that, and I'm going to have our next polling question, Sam. And this is, does anyone in your organization analyze journal entries? And I'm curious about this. Okay, and it's very interesting here. we're seeing either people saying yes or not sure, okay? And that's great. Well, the yeses are great because journal entries, as you may or may not know, are often, you probably do know this, are often used when somebody has a fraud going on, an ongoing internal fraud, as a way of covering their tracks when it comes to the accounting records. So, yeah, it's important. Okay, so we want to scrutinize overlooked process improvements. So you want to continually look for ways to improve and eliminate mistakes. Anytime mistakes are made, more than occasionally, go back, look, why is this being made? How is it being made? What can we do to change it? Technology is going to be the game changer when it comes to certain of these errors. So, for example, keying errors. If your people make keying errors, and everybody does, okay? I mean, think about yourself when you're writing emails or even a memo. How often do you do you have typos? Okay, sometimes they get fixed, sometimes they don't. Okay, so technology is going to help us big time in this area. And you want to continually look at them because this helps protect against new frauds. Criminals are ideally are pros at finding those little nuances, the little loopholes, and taking advantage of them. So that's why, by the way, I was asking for journal entries. In an ideal world, we'd have no journal entries, okay? Now, some organizations will have regular ones that they put through at the end of every month. You need to look at those and say, why are we putting these through? Is there some way we can get this information into our accounting system without a journal entry by putting through the regular transactions? Okay, those are the regular ones. Now let's stop and let's take a look at the one-off. So it's the end of the month. Somebody should be looking at the journal entries. You're really looking hopefully for accuracy, but also you want to make sure that nobody's playing any games, although you really don't want to announce that to the world. So why are we putting this through? What went wrong? You want to figure, and sometimes there's a very legitimate reason, but then you want to take it one step further, okay? Can this happen again? And if the answer to that is yes, okay, what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? What process change can we make so it doesn't happen again? You want to get those journal entries, if you can, down to 0 or to the 3 ones that you put through every month for whatever reason. Okay. And don't overlook, sometimes the answer to a lot of these problems is just we need more training. We haven't trained our people adequately. Or, you think you've trained them adequately, but at the end of the day, if you've trained 5 people and 3 are making the same mistake, then you need to go back and train some more. Okay. So look at them. Similarly, you want to look at your duplicate payments anytime one happens. Ideally, they never happen, but we live in the real world, so they're going to happen from time to time. You may discover this because the supplier sends the money back, but that's unlikely. The way you're probably going to discover it is you do your statement audit and you find a credit. And when you investigate that credit, it's like it was a duplicate payment. So you want to take that duplicate payment. How did this happen? Why did we make it? They sent a second invoice. They changed the invoice number. The original person coded the original invoice number wrong. And then when the second one showed up, it looked like a different invoice. Whatever it is, figure out what happened. Can it happen again? Are there any process changes we can make so that it won't happen again? And again, training. Don't forget training, training, training. Now, we made this duplicate payment, okay? You've done all this. Is it likely we made other duplicate payments along at the same time we made this? one of the big places that duplicate payments occurs at every company is between two different fiscal years. So let's say your fiscal year end is December 31st. You probably want to go back and look at all your payments from November 1st through March 1st, let's say, and see were there any duplicates, that one was in one fiscal year and the other was in another fiscal year. Same thing if you go to a new ERP system or you upgrade. Over that period where the upgrade or the change was happened, you want to go back and look for duplicates because there's a lot that can go wrong. Next, look at your early payment discounts, the ones that you lost, not the ones that you got. If you lost it, why? Why did you lose it? Why didn't you earn it? And then when you figure out why you didn't learn it, is this likely to happen again? If the answer is yes, what can we do so that it doesn't happen again? What process change can we make? Do we need to train more? Maybe we need to communicate better with our vendors. If you suspect your vendors are playing games, which occasionally they do when early payment discounts are involved, because as attractive as they are to you, they are unattractive to your vendor, then you want to go back and you want to work with purchasing. So, for example, if the invoice is dated, let's say May 1, and you're using electronic invoicing, but somehow that doesn't show up to May 5, you either want to just automatically change that invoice date to May 5th, or you want to talk to the vendor about it, okay? Because those early payment discounts are real money in your pocket. Now, there's two parts of this, okay? So I'm talking about making yourself redundant. You might call it making yourself out of a job, doing yourself out of a job. This is definitely scary because let's face it, nobody wants to lose their job. Nobody wants to be without a paycheck. I don't, and I'm sure you don't. So you want to make sure that your job, everything you do, can be handled either by technology or by others within the departments. You want to have backup. You want to train people so that if need be, the operation could run without you. Now, and if you're a manager, you want to, you can do this through delegation. You can do this through training your staff. If you're the manager of the AP department, I would challenge you to take a step back and try and look at the work that you are doing. And is this manager's work, or is this work that really should have been delegated to one of your supervisors or even an analyst? Okay. So train your staff. Line workers, if you're, a processor, for example, you want to look for ways process improvements can be made. One of the things I like to tell people is when they're looking for process improvements, always talk to the people who are doing the job on a day-to-day basis because they understand it much better than you or I or anyone do because they live with it. Okay. And so you want to look for ways to eliminate inefficient processes. Now, before you think I've lost my mind, at the same time that you're doing this, you want to, as I've been talking, continue to learn, continue to expand your knowledge base and your skill sets. You want to train yourself for the future. You want to train yourself for the next job, because in all likelihood, for most of you, nobody's going to be lining up to do it for this. So if you make this part, continue learning, you set yourself up. You want to, and then when, you can do yourself out of a job, there will be others who will want to hire you and you'll, go up the career ladder that way. But there's even a third part to this. Not only continue learning, you don't want to do that in the corner with a bushel over your head. You want to make sure you're visible to others because you want to, as you want to move up, and you want to improve the processes and everything, people have to know about you. Otherwise, you're going to be out on the street looking for a job at another company. Understand that what management wants, they want people who understand the latest technology, and can make process improvements using that technology. So you might look at the technology and we're doing this and we could use it for here and here and here. And sometimes some of the ways that you can use that technology, especially the automation solutions that are on the market today, involve more than just AP. So they might make process improvements elsewhere within the organization. So people want management wants not only people who understand the technology, people who can make process improvements. It's real easy to say, oh, we shouldn't be doing A, we shouldn't be doing B, we shouldn't be doing C, but they can also implement them. It's nice to say, hey, I should exercise more. I know that. That's a process improvement I can suggest to myself. But unless I come up with a way to actually do it, it's just me talking to myself. Now, so when you're making yourself redundant because you're learning and you're taking on new skills, you also want to make sure that you make yourself more visible. How are you going to do that? Okay. It's a fine line between, you don't want to be the braggart who's always talking about yourself, but here are some ways. I have some ways. Okay. You want to volunteer, especially for interdepartmental projects, if there is one. You want to try and get yourself included if there is an interdepartmental project that's going on. Another thing some organizations will do is they have United Way campaigns. You might want to be the departmental representative for that because there will be meetings and it will be with other groups. Okay. So go out of your way to meet people in other departments and to get to know them. Now, sometimes people will make a strategic plan. Okay, I want to get to know other people. That's great. And they'll specifically, target people who they think can help them. Don't only focus on folks like that because you never know who knows who and who knows what. And, you don't want to be seen as that person who, only will talk to someone who can do something for them. And of course, along with that, you want to where you can do favors, pay it forward, so to speak. You want to have an elevator speech prepared ahead of time that talks a little bit about yourself. So when you run into the CFO in the elevator and he or she says to you, what do you do? Or if you have some project that you've been trying to get on the board, you can talk about it. So prepare ahead of time. Obviously, you don't want to go into too much detail, elevator speech, 60 seconds, etc. Also, you want to make sure that your boss knows that you are interested in moving up. Probably the ideal time to do this is during your annual review when you're talking about the future. Also, don't forget to ask your boss during that annual review, not only, hey, do I want to get ahead? I'd like to be promoted. What do I have to do that? And what can I do to help you achieve your goals? That's how you make yourself visible, or some ways you can make yourself visible within your company. You might also want to make yourself visible on the outside. So get on LinkedIn. Okay, connect with people in other industries who have the same job as you do. Connect with people who you might want to get to know. These can be up, they can be down, they can be at the same level. Then once you're connecting, you'll start to see people posting different things. You want to join these conversations if you've joined some LinkedIn groups. Also, you want to when you see somebody put something up that's good, you want to give them a thumbs up. You might even add something to it. Good job. I agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. Something positive. Okay. You might share some things yourself. If you see an article, then you might, share it. Always be positive. Never be negative, no matter how tempting, because while you think you may be commenting on somebody who put something up that was stupid, it will reflect poorly on yourself. Okay, it never looks good. So don't post a comment that basically says you're an idiot, even though you're thinking it. Like, try and post, like my father used to say. I always hated it when he'd be yelling at me and my brother. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I'd be, well, I'll never talk about him. He's my best friend today. But anyway, be positive, and you can find things, okay? And this is a way. So if you post something positive on somebody's article, they'll go back, they'll see that, they'll get to know you. That's a way to build some visibility, and nothing wrong with paying it forward, okay? You can't go wrong by being nice. All righty. So, some concluding thoughts. Okay. There's a lot of change going on. There's a lot of change going on in accounts payable and accounting in the business world in general. Okay. And sometimes change is scary. I'm not going to deny that, but there are a lot of opportunities. And the opportunities, I can't say this enough, are not for the people who know how to use the technology. Yeah, there's a lot of jobs out there for people who know how to integrate, for example, AI into, an automation solution or develop an automation solution. But the lion's share of the jobs are for the people who understand how that technology works and can make real life applications using it in their business environment. Due to the very nature of accounts payable, because a lot of it is transactional, at least at the very entry level, because we're handling invoices, we're reviewing them, we're getting them approved, and then we're scheduling them for paper. Accounts payable is on the ground floor, if you will, of being hit with being one of the first functions to be implemented or to be impacted in a big way by some of the automation. You can look at that as a good thing or a bad thing. I choose to look at it as a good thing because we're in on the ground floor, and it provides a unique opportunity that you will be able to share with others. So embrace change and embrace technology. Yes, it's a little scary. I certainly get that. I understand that, but it provides you great opportunities. So learn as much as you can about the new technology and solutions. When you see an organization like MHC giving a product demo, go to it. That's the only way you're going to learn how this stuff works. And a product A, a product B, and product C are all going to be a little bit different. So you want to, understand the nuances of each of them. You want to differentiate yourself from everybody else that you're competing with for that same job for management's attention. And to do that, you want to go beyond best practices. So not only recover those credits, those vendor credits, if you will, figure out why they happened and stop it so you don't have them in the future. Okay. The world really is, it's a wonderful place to be right now. The business world has lots of opportunity. So, go out there and embrace it and find the change that you can make. And I think we have our last polling question now. And then, I don't know, Sam, did we get any questions?
Yes, we did have some Q&A come in. So after this poll question, we will jump into that.
Okay. All righty. And I figured out how to close these out, Sam. So, all righty.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Well, yeah, we can jump into Q&A here.
Okay.
Awesome. So the first question we had that came in is, will automation help improve our AP efficiency?
Yes, it will. But I want to caution you. It's not going to eliminate everybody in AP. I mean that, and sometimes, you'll have a CFO go to a talk, he'll hear something, and come back with his misconception. It will approve and it won't eliminate everybody. And you have to dissuade them of that impression, if you will. It will make you more efficient. It will make you more effective. Hopefully, it will eliminate some of the, silly errors that everybody makes, the keying errors, etc. It will make you a lot more efficient, and it'll free up time so that your staff will have the time to do the things that you've wanted to do, that every accounts payable department should be doing, but isn't doing. There's a lot of data analytics out there. There's a lot of insights that can be garnered from the data that we have in AP, and we haven't even started to look at it in a serious manner.
Great. I think we have time for one more question